This play is called Our Town. It is written by Thornton Wilder, produced by Marty Fortin, and directed by Fred Schwint. In it, you will see Elisa Ray, Jessica Scoggins, Kenny Brazil, Steve Hecker, Bruce Roberts, Timothy McKnight, and many others. The name of our town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just across the Massachusetts line. Latitude 42 degrees, 40 minutes. Longitude 70 degrees, 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. The day is May 7th, 1901. The time is just before dawn. There are some streaks of light coming from the east there, beyond our mountain. The morning star always gets wonderful bright the moment before it has to leave, doesn't it? Well, I guess I better show you how our town lies. Now back here is Main Street. And up over here is the railway station. Tracks go that way. Polish town and some Canuck families are across the tracks. Over here is a Congregational church. Across the street is the Presbyterian. Unitarian and Methodist are over there. The Baptist is down by the river in the hollow. And the Catholic Church, of course, is over beyond the tracks. Now, over here is the town hall and post office combined. Jail's in the basement. William Jennings Bryan once made a speech from these very steps here. And over here is a row of stores, hitch and blow posts and horse blocks in front of them. The first automobile is going to come along in about 5 years. It was owned by Banker Cartwright, our richest citizen. Lives in the big white house up on the hill. Now over here is a grocery store and Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Now most everyone in town manages to look into these two stores at least once a day. Now over yonder is a public school, and further over yet is the high school. 9 o'clock mornings, noon times, and 3 o'clock afternoons, the whole town can hear the yelling and screaming coming from those schoolyards. Now over here is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. And this is his back door. And here's some scenery for those of you that think you have to have scenery. And this is Mrs. Gibbs' garden. Corn, beans, heliotrope, hollyhocks, and a lot of burdock. In those days, our town paper came out twice a week, the Grover's Corners Sentinel. And this is Editor Webb's house. And this is Mrs. Webb's garden. It's the same as Mrs. Gibbs, only it's got a lot of sunflowers too. And right here is a big butternut tree. Nice town. You know what I mean? No one very remarkable ever came out of it, as far as we know. The oldest tombstones up on the mountain say 1670, 1680. They're Grovers and Cartwrights and Gibbses and Herseys. Same names as are around here now. Well, just as I said, it's just about dawn. There are a few lights on in town. Over by the tracks there, where a Polish mother's just had twins. And over at the Joe Crowell house, where Joe Crowell Jr.'s getting up just to deliver the papers. And over at the train depot where Shorty Hawkins is getting ready to flag the 545 for Boston. Out in the country, naturally, all around, the lights have been on for quite some time, what with Milkins and so on. But town folks sleep late. And so, another day's begun. And here comes Doc Gibbs, coming down Main Street, coming back from that baby case. And here comes his wife, come downstairs to make breakfast. Doc Gibbs died in 1930. The new hospital is named after him. Mrs. Gibbs died first, a long time ago in fact. She'd gone to visit her daughter Rebecca, who'd married an insurance man in Canton, Ohio, and she died there. Pneumonia. But they brought her body back here, and she's up there now in the cemetery with a whole mess of Gibbses and Herseys. She was Julia Hersey before she married Doc Gibbs over in the Congregational church there. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. And here comes Mrs. Webb, come downstairs to make her breakfast too. And there's Doc Gibbs. Got that call at 1:30 this morning. And here comes Joe Crowell, delivering Mr. Webb's sentinel.
Morning, Doc Gibbs. Morning, Joe.
Somebody been sicked up?
No, some twins born in Polish town.
Do you want your paper now?
Yes, I'll take it. Say, Joe, has anything serious been happening in the world since Wednesday?
Yes, sir. My school teacher, Miss Foster's getting married to a fella over in Concord.
I declare, how do you boys feel about that?
Well, I think if a person starts out to be a school teacher, she ought to stay one.
How'd you mean, Joe?
I don't think about it all that much, but it's like you said. It always tells you when it's going to rain.
And what's it telling you now? Is it going to rain today?
No, sir.
Sure?
Yes, sir.
Does it ever make a mistake?
No, sir.
I want to tell you something about that boy Joe Krause there. He was awful bright. Graduated from high school here, head of his class. So he got a scholarship to Massachusetts Tech. Graduated head of his class there too. It was all written up in the Boston paper at the time. He was going to be a great engineer, Joe was. But the war broke out, and he died in France. All that education for nothing.
Giddy up, Bessie. Some more maybe. What's wrong with you this morning?
And here comes Howie Newsom, delivering the milk.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Howie.
Somebody sick this morning?
No, a pair of twins over to Mrs. Goroslavsky's.
Twins, huh? This town's getting bigger every year.
Tell me, Howie, is it going to rain?
Oh, it's going to be a clear day. It's all going to clear off. Look, come on, Bessie, let's go.
Oh, hello, Bessie. How old is she, Joe?
Oh, she's going on
Howie?
she's going on 17, Doc. Yeah, she's been all mixed up about the route ever since the Lockhart stopped taking her quart of milk. She wants to deliver a quart there all the same. She's been chiming me all morning about it. Come on, let's go.
Hey, good morning, Howie.
Morning, Miss Gibbs. Doc's just coming down the road there.
Oh, is he? Well, it seems like you're running a little late today.
Yeah, something wrong with the separator. Not sure what it was. All right, Doc.
Howie?
Come on, Bessie.
Children, time to get up. George, Rebecca. Everything all right, Frank?
Yes, I declare. Easy as kittens.
Good. Bacon will be ready in a minute. Sit down and drink your coffee. You can get a couple hours sleep this morning, can't you?
Mrs. Wentworth's coming over at 11. I guess I know what it's about, too. Her stomach ain't what it ought to be.
Oh, standing there on the sideline, getting a little nervous. Come on.
Emily! Wally! 7 o'clock! Time to get up! I wish you would talk to George. It seems like something's come over him lately. I can't get him to help me at all. He won't even cut me any wood.
Is he sassy, too?
No, he just whines. All I can think about is that baseball. Rebecca, George, you're gonna be late for school. George!
George, look sharp!
Yes, Pop.
Did you hear your mother calling you? I guess I'll go up and get 40 wigs.
Children! You're gonna be late! Wally, if you don't wash yourself up, I'm gonna come up there and wash it for you. Mom! What dress am I supposed to wear? Will you hush up? Your father hasn't had any sleep. He was out all night long. I washed him, ironed that blue gingham for you special. Mom, I hate that one! Hush up with you. I always go to school looking like a sick turkey! Rebecca, you always look very nice. Mom, George is throwing soap at me! I'm gonna come up there and slap the both of you, that's what I'm gonna do!
Our town's got a factory in it too. You hear it? Makes blankets. The Cartwrights own it, and have run them a fortune.
Now that's it. Breakfast is just as important as any other meal of the day, and I won't have you gobbling like wolves. It'll stunt your growth, and that's a fact. Wally, put your book away.
Aw, Ma. By 10 o'clock, I got to know all about Canada.
Well, you know the rules as well as I do. No books at the table. Besides, I'd rather have my children more healthy than bright.
I'm both, Mommy. You know I am. I'm the brightest girl in school for my age, and I have a wonderful memory.
Eat your breakfast.
I'm bright, too. When I'm looking at my stamp collection.
I will talk to your father after he's rested. Seems like 25 cents a week is plenty enough for a boy your age. I don't know how you spend it all anyway.
Oh, Ma, I got a lot of things to buy.
Oh, strawberry phosphates is what you spend it on.
I don't see how Rebecca comes to have so much money. She has more than $1.
I save it. Real gradual.
Well, dear, I think it's a good thing to spend some every now and then.
Mama, do you know what I love most in this world? Do you? Money.
Oh, eat your breakfast.
Now, you need to hurry, but you don't have to run. George, pull your pants up at the knee. Emily, walk straight.
Now, you tell Miss Foster that I send her my very best congratulations. Can you remember that?
Yes, Mom.
Rebecca, you look very nice. Yes. Now pick up your feet.
Goodbye.
Bye, Mom.
Get away, you get away. Well, what's the matter with you? All you ever do is fight. That's all you ever do.
You don't belong to me. Where'd you come from?
Now don't look so scared. Nobody's gonna hurt you. Good morning, Myrtle. How's your cold?
Oh, my throat's still scratchy. I told Charles I might as well not go to choir practice. It wouldn't do any good.
Well, did you try singing over your voice?
I did, but I can't quite keep on key. I thought while I'm resting here, I'd string some of these beans.
Oh, yeah. Let me help you. Beans have been good this year.
I told myself I'm gonna put up 40 quarts if it kills me. The children say they hate them, but they sure put them down all winter.
Well, I gotta tell you something, because if I don't tell somebody, I'm gonna burst.
My Julia Gibbs.
Myrtle, give me some more of those beans here. Did one of those second-hand furniture salesmen out of Boston come talk to you last Friday?
No.
Well, he come talk to me. At first I thought he was a patient that wanted to see Dr. Gibbs. Then he wormed his way into my parlor and Myrtle Webbs, he offered me $350 for Grandmother Wentworth's. Hi, boys, I am sitting here.
Why, Julia
He
Gibbs!
did that horrible thing. It's so big, I never knew what to do with it. I almost give it away to Cousin Hester Wilcox.
Well, you're gonna take it, aren't you?
Well, I don't know.
What? You don't know? Julia Gibbs, $350? What's come over you?
Well, if I could get the doctor to take that money and go on a real trip somewhere, I'd sell it like that. Myrtle Webb, it's been the dream of my life to go see Paris, France. Oh, I know it's crazy, I know, but... Well, for years, I've been promising myself that if we ever got the chance...
Well, how does the doctor feel about that?
You know, I kind of beat around the bush. I said, if I ever got a legacy, that's how I put it, I'd make him take me somewhere.
And what did the doctor say?
Well, you know him, I never heard a serious word out of him since I've known him. Oh no, he said, it might make him discontented to roll his corners if he went traipsing all over Europe. Better live well enough alone, he said. But in 2 years he goes off to see the battlefields of the Civil War. That's enough treat for anybody, he says.
Well, Mr. Webb just admires the way that Dr. Gibbs knows everything about the Civil War. He has half a mind to give up Napoleon and move over to the Civil War. Only Dr. Gibbs, being the most expert in the country, just makes him despair.
Well, it is a fact. Nothing ever makes Dr. Gibbs more happy than when he's in Antietam or Gettysburg. Myrtle, the times that I've been walking over those hills, stopping at every bush and piecing it all out like I was going to buy the place.
Well, I'll tell you, Julia, if that second-hand man is really serious about selling it, you buying it, you sell it. And then you'll get to see Paris, France, all right. Just keep dropping hints from time to time. That's what I did. That's how I got to see the Atlantic Ocean, you know.
Well, I'm sorry you even mentioned it. It's just that, once in your life before you die, you ought to see a country that don't talk in English and don't even want to.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. Now we're going to skip ahead a few hours here. But first we'd like a little more information on our town. Kind of a scientific account, you might say. So I've asked Professor Willard of our state university to come in and sketch in a few details of our past history here. Is Professor Willard out there?
Here. Yes.
May I introduce Professor Willard of our state university? And now just a few brief notes, Professor. Unfortunately, our time is limited.
Yes. Well, Grover's Corner. Let me see. Grover's Corners is located on the old Archean granite of the Appalachian Range. I may say it's some of the oldest land in the world, and we're quite proud of that. A shelf of Devonian basalt crosses it, with vestiges of Mesozoic shale, and some sandstone outcroppings. But that's all much more recent, 200, 300 million years ago. Some highly interesting fossils, may I say unique fossils, have been found just 2 miles out of town in Silas Peckham's cow pasture. They can be seen at the museum in the university at any time. Well, at any reasonable time, that is. Shall I read some of Professor
I'm
Brewer's
afraid we
notes?
won't have time for that, Professor.
But the meteorological situation.
We may have a few notes on the history of man.
Yes. Anthropological data. Early Amerindian stock, Cotahatchee tribes. No evidence before the 10th century of this era. Now completely disappeared. Possible traces in 3 families. Migration toward the end of the 17th century of English brachiocephalic blue-eyed stock, for the most part. Since then, some Slav and Mediterranean.
And the population, Professor?
Well, within the town limits, 2,640.
Just one moment, Professor.
Oh, well, yes, indeed. The population at this moment is 2,642. The postal district brings in 507 more, making a total of 3,149. Mortality and birth rates constant. By McPherson's gauge.
Thank you very much, Professor. We're very much obliged to you, I'm sure. No, right this way, Professor. And thank you again.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you.
And now, the political and social report, Editor Webb. Is Mr. Webb out there?
Could you wait just a moment? He's cut his hand eating an apple.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Webb.
Charles, hurry up, everyone's waiting.
Mr. Webb is editor and publisher of the Grover's Corners Sentinel. That's our local paper, you know.
Well, I don't have to tell you that we are run by a board of selectmen. All men vote at the age of 21. Women vote indirectly. Politically, we're 86% Republican, 6% Democrat, 4% Socialist, and the rest are indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestant, 12% Catholic, and the rest are indifferent.
And have you any comments about the town, Editor Webb?
Yeah, it's an ordinary enough town if you ask me. A little bit better behaved than most, maybe a little boring, but our young people here seem to like it just fine. 90% of them that graduate from high school decide to settle down right here, even if they've been to college.
And does anyone in the audience have any questions for Editor Webb?
I do. Editor Webb, is there much drinking in Grover's Corner?
Well, I wouldn't know what you mean by much, ma'am. You know, the farmhands, they meet at Elroy Greenball's stables every Saturday night, and they do a little hooping and hollering. We have a town drunk or two, but they're remorse when the evangelist comes through town. So, no, ma'am, liquor's not much of a thing in the household, except in the medicine cabinets. It's good for snake bites, always has been.
Isn't there anyone in town concerned about...
Come down here, please, where we can hear you. Yes, what were you saying?
Isn't there anyone in town concerned about social injustice or industrial inequality?
Oh, yes, a great deal. It seems like folks are always trying to figure out who's rich and who's poor.
Well, then why doesn't anybody do anything about it?
I don't know. I suppose we're hunting like everybody else for a way that the diligent and sensible can rise to the top and the lazy and the quarrelsome can sink to the bottom. But it's not all that easy to find. But we take care of those that can't take care of themselves. And for those that can, we pretty much just leave alone. Excuse me. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Webb, what about culture? Is there a love of beauty in Grover's Corner?
Well, excuse me, ma'am. Well, not like you might. But come to think of it, there are a couple girls that play piano at the high school recital. But they don't really like it all that much. This might be a place to tell you about the simple pleasures that we have of a kind here. We like to watch the sun come up over the mountains every morning. We notice a great deal about the birds. We notice the changing of the seasons. We know about things like candles, Largo, and oh, thank you, sir. You're very welcome. We have really good water here. But we like to watch the sun come up over the mountains, like I was saying. Pay particular attention to the birds. We know about Robinson Crusoe in the Bible, Whistler's mother, but that's about all.
I thought so, Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. And now we're going to go back to our town. All 2,642 have had their suppers and all the dishes have been washed. There's an early afternoon calm in our town. A buzzing and a humming coming from the school buildings. There are a few buggies down on Main Street, and the horses are asleep at their hitching posts. We all remember how it is. Doc Gibbs is over in his office, tapping on people and making them say, ah. And Editor Webb is over mowing his lawn. Now, one man in 10 thinks it's a privilege to push his own lawnmower. No, sir, it's later than I thought. Here comes the children, coming home from school already.
Oh, I can't, Louise. I've got to go home and help my mother. I promised. Goodbye.
Emily, walk sensible. Who do you think you are today?
Papa, you're terrible. One minute you call me names, and the next you tell me to stand up straight. I just don't listen to you.
Oh my. I've never been kissed by such a sweet woman before.
Oh, excuse me, Mrs. Forrest.
Go out and play the fields, young man! You got no business playing baseball on Main Street!
Awfully sorry, Mrs. Forrest.
Oh my God.
Hello, Emily.
Hello.
You made a fine speech in class.
Well, I was really prepared to make a speech about the Monroe Doctrine, but last minute Miss Corcoran made me change it to the Louisiana Purchase. I worked an awful long time on both of them, though.
Gee, it's funny, Emily. From my window up there, I can just see your head at nights when you're doing your homework over in your room.
Why can't you?
You certainly do stick to it. I don't see how you can sit still for so long, though. I guess you just like school.
Well, I just think it's something a person has to go through.
Yeah?
I don't mind it though, it passes the time.
Yeah. Say, Emily, what do you think? We can make some sort of telegram from your window to mine, and then you can give me one of those hints about those algebra problems. Not the answers, Emily. Just the hints.
Well, I'm sure hints are allowed. So, if you ever get stuck on one of those problem storage, just whistle on over to me and I'll give you some of those hints.
You're just naturally bright, I guess.
I just think it's the way a person's born.
Yeah, well, I want to be a farmer on my Uncle Luke's farm, and he said that I can start working for him any time now, and if I'm any good at it, I can just gradually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Emily. I gotta be getting out to the baseball field. Thanks for the talk. Good afternoon, Mrs. Webb.
Oh, good afternoon, George.
So long, Emily.
So long, George.
Emily, can you come and help me strain some of these beans? Well, George Gibbs is growing up. He let him have himself a real conversation, didn't he? How old would you say he is?
I don't know.
Let's see. Oh, almost 16.
Mama, I made a speech in class today. It was very good.
Well, you'll have to recite it to your father at supper. What was it about?
The Louisiana Purchase. It was like silk off the spool. I'm gonna make speeches all my life. Are these big enough?
Try to get them a little bigger, dear.
Mama, will you answer me a question? Serious?
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously, will you?
Of course I will.
Mama, am I good looking?
Well, of course you are. All my children have good features. I'd be ashamed if they didn't.
Mama, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, am I pretty?
Emily, I've already told you. This is nonsense. You have a nice, young, pretty face. I've never heard such foolishness.
You never tell us the truth about anything.
I am telling you the truth.
Well, were you pretty?
Of course I was. If I do say so myself, I was the prettiest girl in town, next to Mamie Cartwright.
Well, Mama, now you've got to say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get anybody interested in me?
Emily, you make me tired. Now stop it. You are pretty enough for all normal purposes. Now, come along and grab that basket, please.
Mama, you're no help at all.
Thank you. Thank you, that'll do. Thank you, Mrs. Webb. Thank you, Emily. Now, we want to learn a few more things about our town. Now, I think this is a good time to tell you that the Cartwright interests are building a new bank in Grover's Corners. Had to go to Vermont for the marble, sorry to say. And they've asked a friend of mine what they should put in the cornerstone for people to dig up 1,000 years from now. Naturally, we put in a copy of the New York Times and of Mr. Webb's Sentinel. We're awful interested in this because some scientific fellas have found a way of painting all that reading material with a glue, a silica glue. That'll make it keep 1,000, 2,000 years. So naturally we put in a copy of the Bible and of the Constitution and of Mr. William Shakespeare's plays. What do you say, folks? What do you think? You know, Babylon once had 2 million people in it, and all we know about them is the names of the kings and some copies of some wheat contracts, and some contracts for the sales of slaves. Yet every night, all those families sat down to supper, and the father came home from his work, and the smoke went up the chimney. Same as here. And even in Greece and Rome, all we know about the real lives of the people is what we can gather from the joking poems and comedies that were written for the theater back then. So, I'm having a copy of this play put into the cornerstone, and people 1,000 years from now will know a few simple facts about us, more than the Treaty of Versailles or the Lindbergh flight. Do you see what I mean? So, people 1,000 years from now, this is the way we were in the provinces north of New York at the beginning of the 20th century. This is the way we were in our growing up, and in our marrying, and in our living, and in our dying. outside. It's evening. You can hear the choir practice going on over at the Congregational Church. The children are at home doing their schoolwork. And the day is running down like a tired clock.
Now look here, everybody. Music come into the world to give pleasure. Well, let's do it again.
Blessed be the tie
Softer.
that binds our hearts.
Softer. Okay, stop. You gotta get it out of your head that music is only good when it's loud. You leave loudness to the Methodists. You couldn't beat them, even if you wanted to. No, let's do it again.
Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts.
Hello.
Hello.
Why is moonlight just terrible tonight?
Did you get the answer to the third problem?
Which?
The third.
Why, yes, George. That's the easiest of them all.
Well, I don't see it. Can you give me a hint?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's in yards.
In yards? How do you mean?
In square yards.
Oh, in square yards.
Yes, George, don't you see it?
Yeah.
In square yards of wallpaper.
Wallpaper. Oh, I see. Thanks a lot, Emily.
Yeah, no problem. Why isn't the moonlight just terrible tonight? And with choir practice going on. Why, I'm sure if you held your breath, you could hear the train all the way to Conticook. You hear it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I better get back to work.
Good night, Emily.
Good night, George.
Oh, that was very good. Now, before I forget, how many of you can be here next Tuesday and sing for Fred Hersey's wedding? Well, let's see a show of hands. Okay, well, that's good, fine. We're gonna sing the same songs that we sang at Jane Trillbridge's last month. Okay, thank you. Now, let's turn to Art Thou Weary? Art Thou Languid? It's a question, ladies and gentlemen. Let's make it talk.
Art thou weary, art thou languid, for the sore distress?
George, can you come down here a minute?
Yes, Pop.
Make yourself comfortable. I'll only keep you a minute. George, how old are you?
I'm 16. Almost 17.
And what are your plans after school's over?
Why, you know, Pop. I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
You'll be willing, will you, to get up early to milk and feed the stock? And you'll be able to hoe and hay all day?
Why, of course. What do you mean, Pop?
Well, George, when I was in my office today, I heard a funny sound. What do you think it was? It was your mother chopping wood. There, you see your mother getting up early, cooking meals all day long, washing, ironing, and still she has to go out in the backyard and chop wood. I guess she got tired of asking you. She just decided it was easier to do it herself. And you wear her clothes that she keeps nice for you. And you eat the meals that she cooks for you. And then you run off and play baseball like she was some hired girl that we keep around the house, but we don't like very much. I knew all I had to do was point it out to you. Here's a handkerchief, son. I decided to raise your spending money 25 cents a week. Not for chopping wood for your mother, because that's a present you give her, but because you're getting older. And I think you are finding many things that you can do with that. Payday is tomorrow. You can count on it. Probably Rebecca will feel that she ought to have some too. What could have happened to your mother? Choir practice has never been this late before.
It's only 8:30, Pa.
I don't know why she's in that choir anyway. She hasn't any more voice than an old crow. Traipsing around the town this time of night. About time you retired, don't you think?
Yes, Pa.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mrs. Foster.
Oh, I'll be sure to tell Mr. Webb. He'll want to put that in the paper.
Oh, my, it's late.
Good night, Irma. Good night.
Oh my, look at that moon, Myrtle. Tis potato weather for sure.
Naturally, I didn't want to say a word about it in front of those others, but now we're alone. Really, it's the worst scandal that ever was in this town.
What?
Simon Stimson.
Oh, now, Luella.
Oh, but Julia, to have the organist of a church drink and drunk year after year, you know he was drunk tonight.
Now, Luella, we all know about Simon Stimson, and we all know about the problems he has, and Reverend Ferguson knows too. And if Reverend Ferguson decides to keep him on this job there, well, the only thing we can do is just not notice it.
Not notice it? But it's getting worse.
No, Luella, it is not. It is getting better. I've been in this choir twice as long as you have, and it doesn't happen near as often. Oh, I hate to go to bed on a night like this. Well, I better get going, or the kids will be up till all hours. Good night, Luella. Good night, Julia.
Can you get home safely, Luella? Oh, it's bright as day out. I can see Mr. Soames scowling at the window now. Oh, you'd think we'd been to a dance the way the men folk carry on.
Oh my, we had a good time.
You're late enough.
Oh, Frank, it ain't any later than usual.
And stopping at the corner to gossip of a lot of hens?
Oh, don't be so grouchy. You come on outside and smell the heliotrope in the moonlight. Oh, isn't that wonderful? What'd you do all that time I was gone?
Oh, I read as usual. What were you gossiping about with the girls?
Oh my, there's something to gossip about, let me tell you, Frank Gibbs.
Simon Stimson far gone, was he?
Oh, worst I've ever seen him. How is that gonna end? Reverend Simpson is not gonna be forgetting him for, forever.
I guess I know more about Simon Stimson's affairs than anybody else in this town. Some people ain't made for small town life. That's all. I don't know how it's going to end, but there's nothing we can do but just let it be.
Yeah.
Come, let's go in.
Oh, not yet, Frank. I'm worried about you.
What are you worried about?
Well, I think it's my place to make plans for you to take a rest and change. If I get my legacy, I'm gonna insist on it.
Now, Julie, don't go into that again.
Oh, Frank, you're just being stubborn.
Oh, come on, it's getting late. We got to go inside. First thing you know, you'll catch a cold. I gave George a piece of my mind tonight. I reckon you'll have your wood chopped for a while at least. No, you get upstairs.
Well, there just always seems to be so many things to pick up around here. You know, Miss Fairchild, she locks her front door every night. Everybody in that part of town does.
They're too citified. That's the trouble with them. They ain't got nothing fit to burgle, and everybody knows it.
Get out of my window, Rebecca! You're always spoiling everything.
Just let me look.
Use your own window.
I tried, but there's no moon in that one. Do you know what I think, George? Do you? I think the moon is coming nearer and nearer, and there's going to be a big explosion.
If the moon were getting nearer, the people who sit out all night with the telescopes would see it first, and then they'd tell about it, and then it'd be all over the newspapers. You don't know anything.
George, is the moon covering South America, Canada, and half of the whole world?
Well, probably is.
"9:30. Most of the lights are off in town. Oh, there's Constable Warren checking a few doors down on Main Street. And here comes Editor Webb, after putting his newspaper to bed."
Evening, Bill.
Good evening, Mr. Webb.
Quite the moon.
Yep.
All quiet tonight?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think Simon Stimson's rolling around a bit. I just passed his wife. She was setting out to go look for him. So I looked the other way. There he is now.
Oh, Simon, the town's quieting down. Maybe we should do the same. Simon, town's quieting down. Can I walk with you for a bit? Good. Good evening.
I don't know how that's going to end, Mr. Webb.
He's seen a peck of trouble. Bill, say, if you see my boy smoking cigarettes, will you have a word with him? He seems to think a lot about what you think.
Oh, I don't think he smokes no cigarettes, Mr. Webb. Leastwise, no more than 2 or 3 a year.
Oh, that's good. Good night, Bill.
Good night, Mr. Webb.
Who's that up there, Myrtle? Is that you?
No, it's me, Papa.
Emily, what are you doing awake?
Oh, I can't sleep. The moonlight's just so wonderful tonight. And the smell of Mrs. Gibbs' heliotropes. Oh, don't you smell them, Papa?
Yeah. You don't have any trouble on your mind, do you, Emily?
Troubles? No.
All right, well, don't let your mother catch you.
Good night, Papa.
Good night, Emily.
George, I forgot to tell you about the letter Jane Crawford got from her minister when she was sick. He wrote her a letter, and on the envelope it was addressed like this. It said, Jane Crawford, Crawford's Farm, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, United States of America.
And what's so funny about that?
I'm not finished! United States of America, continent of North America, Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God. That's what it said on the envelope.
Well, what do you know?
And the postman brought it just the same.
Well, what do you know?
Well, that's the end of the first act, friends. You can go and smoke now. Those that smoke. rains have brought down some of the dirt. And some babies that weren't even born before have begun speaking in regular sentences. And some folks that thought they were right, young, and spry have found that they can't bound up a flight of stairs like they used to without their hearts fluttering a little. All that can happen in 1,000 days. Nature's been pushing and contriving in other ways too. A number of young people fell in love and got married. Yes, the mountains got bit away a few fractions of an inch. A few million gallons of water went by the mill. And here and there, a home was set up underneath a roof. Almost everyone in the world gets married. You know what I mean? In our town, there aren't hardly any exceptions. Almost everyone in the world climbs into their graves married. The first act was called the daily life. This act is called love and marriage. There's another act coming after this one, and I reckon you can guess what that's about. So, it's summer, 1904, June 7th, just after high school commencement. That's when most of our young people feel that they could jump up and get married. Just when they've passed their final examinations in solid geometry and Cicero's orations, they suddenly feel themselves fit to be married. It's early morning. Only this time it's been raining. It's been pouring and thundering. Mrs. Gibbs' garden here and Mrs. Webb's, drenched. All those bean poles and pea vines, drenched. All yesterday along Main Street, the rain looked like curtains being blown along. It could begin again at any minute. Hear that? That's the 5:45 for Boston. And here comes Mrs. Webb and Mrs. Gibbs come downstairs to make breakfast, just as though it were an ordinary day. Now, I don't have to tell you women in my audience that these two ladies they see before them, both of them, cook 3 meals a day, one of them for 20 years, the other for 40, and no summer vacations. They both raised 2 children apiece, washed, cleaned house, and never a nervous breakdown. It's like what one of those Midwest poets said. You've got to love life to have life, and you've got to have life to love life. It's what they call a vicious circle.
Giddy up, Bessie.
And here comes Howie Newsom, delivering the milk. And here comes Joe Crow, delivering the papers.
Morning, Howie.
Morning, Joe. Any papers I don't know about?
Oh, nothing much. Except we're losing about the best baseball pitcher Rover's Corners has ever had. George Gibbs.
Oh, reckon he is.
He could hit and run bases, too.
Yeah, he's a mighty fine ball player. Whoa, come on, Bessie. I can stop and talk about mine, too.
I just don't get how a man could give up a thing like that just to get married. Would you, Howie?
Oh, can't tell, Joe. I don't have a talent that way. Oh, morning, Bill. You're up early.
Oh, just seeing if there's anything I can do to stop a flood. River's been rising all night.
Yeah, Joe Crowell here. He's on a workup because George Gibbs retired from baseball.
Well, that's just the way it goes. Back in '84, we had a player. JC, not even George Gibbs could have touched him. He went by the name of Hank Todd. He went to Maine to become a preacher. He was a wonderful ball player. What do you think the weather's going to do today, Howie?
Oh, I think it's rained so much, I think it's going to clear up.
Good.
Good morning, Howie.
Morning, Miss Gibbs.
You think it's gonna rain again?
Oh, I think it rained so much, I think it's going to clear up.
Oh, good. I certainly hope so.
You like your regular order this morning?
Well, I'm gonna have a house full of relations, so I better get about 3 milk and 2 cream. One more milk, I think. Thank you.
All right, my wife told me to tell you that we hope they'll be happy. We know they will be.
Thank you. You tell your wife I hope she can make it to the wedding, all right?
Yeah, she sure will. She wouldn't miss it.
Oh, good morning, Howie.
Oh, morning, Miss Webb.
Now, I know I told you 4 quarts of milk, but I was sure hoping you could spare another.
Oh, sure. Give it 2 cream?
You think it's gonna rain again?
Oh, I was just telling Miss Gibbs there that it rained so much this morning, I think it's gonna clear up. Now, Mrs. Newsom wanted me to tell you that we hope they'll be happy. We know they will be.
Oh, thank you, Howie. And thank Mrs. Newsom. Can we count on seeing you at the wedding?
Yeah, we'll be there. We wouldn't miss it. Come on, Bessie, let's go.
Well, Ma, the day's come at last. Losing one of your chicks.
Oh, Frank, not another word. I feel like crying every minute. Sit down and drink your coffee.
The groom's up there shaving and stuff. Only there ain't an awful lot to shave. He's whistling and singing like he's glad to leave us. And every once in a while he says, I do. Into the mirror. But he don't sound convincing to me.
Frank, how are they gonna get along? I've been arranging his clothes and making sure he put on the right things. Well, Frank, they're just too young. Emily's not gonna know how to do such things. He's gonna catch a death of cold within a week.
I was remembering my wedding morning, Julia.
Oh, don't start with that.
I was the scaredest young fella in the state of New Hampshire. I thought I'd make a mistake for sure. When I saw you coming down the aisle, I thought you were the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. Only trouble was I'd never seen you before. Here I was in the Congregational Church marrying a total stranger.
Well, how do you think I felt? Frank, weddings are perfectly horrible, awful things. They're farces is what they are. Well, here, I made you something.
Oh, Julia, Hershey French toast.
Well, it ain't hard to make and I had to do something.
How'd you sleep last night, Julia?
Well, I heard plenty of the hours struck off.
Oh, yes. I get a shock every time I think of Jordan sitting up as a family man. That gangly thing. I tell you, Julia, it's nothing more terrifying than a son. The relation of a father and a son is the awkwardest, most difficult.
Well, between a mother and a daughter ain't no picnic either, let me tell you.
Yes, they'll have lots of troubles, I suppose. But ain't none of our business. Everybody has a right to their own troubles.
Yeah. People are meant to go through life 2 by 2. It ain't natural to be lonesome.
Huh. You know one of the things I was scared of when I married you?
I'll go along with you.
I was afraid we wouldn't have enough material for conversation to last more than a few weeks. I was afraid that we would run out and eat our meals in silence. Well, you and I have been conversing for 40 years now, and I haven't had any noticeable barren spells.
Well, good weather, bad weather, it ain't choice, but I always find something to say, don't I? Did you hear Rebecca stirring around upstairs?
No. The only day of the year, she's not trying to run everybody's business up there. She's hiding in her room. I get the impression she's crying.
Oh, Lord, that's gotta stop. Rebecca! Rebecca, will you come downstairs and eat your breakfast?
Good morning, everybody. Only 5 more hours left to live.
Where are you going?
I'm just gonna cross the grass to see my girl.
No, you put on your overshoes. It's raining torrents outside.
Oh, Ma, it's just a step.
No, it's raining torrents, and I tell you, you're gonna catch a death of cold and cough all through that service.
George, listen to your mother.
After tomorrow, you can kill yourself in all weathers, but while you're living in my home, you're gonna live wisely, thank you. I don't know if Miss Webb is ready for anybody coming at 7 o'clock in the morning. Drink your coffee before you go. Okay.
I'll be back in a minute.
All right.
This
one so far.
Good morning, Mother Webb.
Oh, good morning. Good gracious, George. Oh, you can come in out of the wet, but you can't stay.
Why not?
George, you know as well as I do, the groom can't see his bride until he sees her in church.
Oh, but that's just a superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, George.
Mr. Webb, you don't believe in a superstition like that, do you?
Well, George, there's a lot of truth in some superstitions.
Millions have followed it. You don't want to be the first to fly in the face of custom.
How is Emily?
Well, she's still asleep. She hasn't woken up yet.
Emily's asleep?
She's been up all night sewing and packing. Oh, I'll tell you what. Why don't you sit here and have yourself a nice cup of coffee and conversation with Mr. Webb?
Oh.
And I'll go upstairs and I'll make sure she doesn't come down and surprise you. Don't stay long. Oh, there's some bacon, but be quick about it.
George, how are you?
Fine, Mr. Webb. I'm fine. Say, Mr. Webb, what sense could there be in a superstition like that?
Well, George, you see, on a girl's wedding morning, she's apt to be thinking about clothes and one thing or another. Don't you think that's probably it?
I guess I never thought of that.
Yeah. I mean, she's apt to be a bit nervous on her wedding day.
I just wish a fellow could get married without all that marching up and down.
Well, George, every man that's ever lived has wished that. But you see, it's the women folk that have built up marriage. They've had it to their own for a very long time now. There ain't much sense in it, but you see, a man, he looks mighty small at a wedding, George. All them women lined up shoulder to shoulder, making sure the knot gets tied in the most public of ways.
But you do believe in it, don't you?
Oh, yes, George, yes. Don't get me wrong. Marriage is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Don't you forget that.
No, sir. How old were you when you got married?
Well, I'd gone off to college. I settled some. But Miss Webb, she was about as old as Emily is now. Not that age has as much to do with it. Well, not as much as other things.
What were you going to say, Mr. Webb?
Oh, I don't know. Was I going to say something, George? I was thinking the other day about the advice my father gave me on my wedding day. Charles, he said, now you show them right away who's the boss. You give them an order, even though it don't make sense, so they learn to start obeying. And then he said, if there's anything about them that irritates you, like a conversation or something, he said, then you just get up and walk out of the house, because that'll teach you. And then he said, never, ever, under any circumstances, let them know how much money you have.
Well, Mr. Webb, I don't think I could.
Well, George, I took the opposite of my father's advice, and I've been a happily married man ever since. Let that be a lesson to you, son. Don't seek advice on personal matters. Are you gonna raise chickens on that farm of yours, George?
What?
Are you gonna raise chickens on that farm of yours?
Oh, well, you know, Uncle Luke has never been interested, but I thought that I could,
Well, a book come through the office the other day, and I think you should read it. It's on the final method of raising chickens. I think I'm gonna raise some chickens out back. I'm gonna put the incubator down in the cellar.
Charles, are you talking about that old incubator again? I thought you'd be having a conversation more worthwhile.
Maybe you would like to stay down here and talk to the boy while I go upstairs.
George, Emily needs to come down and get her breakfast. She sends you her love, but she doesn't want to see you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Myrtle, maybe you've forgotten about the older superstitions.
What do you mean, Charles?
Well, it's like since the time of caveman, it's a well-known fact that the bridegroom's not supposed to see the father-in-law on the day of the wedding. Or any time near it. Don't you forget that.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Webb. Thank you very much. Now we're going to have to interrupt here again. You see, we want to know how all this thing began, this wedding, this plan to spend a lifetime together. I'm often very interested in how such big things begin. You know how it is. You're 21 or 22, and you make some decisions. Then whoosh, you're 70, and you've been a lawyer for 50 years. And this white-haired lady beside you has eaten over 50,000 meals with you. How do such things begin? Well, George and Emily are going to show you now the conversation that they had when they both realized that, as the saying goes, they were meant for one another. But first, I want you to think back on how it was to have been very young, and particularly when you were first in love, when you were like a person sleepwalking, and you didn't quite see the road you were in, and you didn't quite hear everything that was said to you. You were just a little crazy. Can you remember that, please? Now, it's 3 o'clock, and they'll be getting out of school here soon. And George has just been elected junior class president, and it's June. That means that he'll be senior class president all next year. And Emily has just been elected secretary and treasurer. Now, I don't have to tell you how important that is. Yep, here they are coming down Main Street now.
I can't, Louise. I've got to go home. Goodbye. Ernestine! Ernestine! Can you come over tonight and do Latin? Isn't that Cicero just the worst thing? Tell your mother that you have to. Goodbye, Helen. Goodbye, Fred.
Emily, can I carry your books home for you?
Sure. It isn't far.
Excuse me a minute, Emily. Hey, Bob, if I'm a little late, start practicing away. Ooh, and give Herb some long high ones.
Goodbye, Lizzie.
Goodbye, Lizzie. Awfully glad you were elected too, Emily.
Thank you.
Emily, why are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
You've been treating me so funny lately.
Well, George, since you asked, I might as well just say it outright. Goodbye, Miss Corcoran.
Goodbye, Miss Corcoran. What? What is it?
I just don't like this whole change that's come over you in the last year. Now, I'm sorry if this hurts your feelings, but I've just got to tell the truth and shame the devil.
Change? What change?
Well, up to a year ago, I used to like you a lot and watch you as you did everything because we've been friends for so long. But then you started spending all your time at baseball. You never stopped to talk to anyone anymore. Not even your own family you didn't. And George, it's a fact. You've gotten awfully conceited and stuck up, and all the girls say so. They may not say it to your face, but that's what they say behind your back. And it hurts me to hear them say it, but I can't help but agree with them. Now, I'm sorry if this hurts your feelings, but I just cannot be sorry I said it.
Emily, I'm glad you said it. I guess it's hard for a fella not to have faults creep into his character.
Well, I think a man should be perfect. So, obviously, you should too.
Oh, I don't think it's possible to be perfect, Emily.
Well, my father's perfect. And from what I can see, your father's perfect. There's no reason on earth why you shouldn't be too.
Well, I think it's the other way around. That men are not naturally perfect, but girls are.
Well, you might as well know right now that I'm not perfect. It's a fact that girls are we're more nervous. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said all of that to you. I don't know what made me say it to you.
Emily?
Now I can see it's not the truth at all, and I suddenly feel it isn't important anyways.
Emily, would you like an ice cream soda with me? Or something before you go home?
Thank you, I would.
Why, hello, George. Hello, Emily. What do you have? Why, Emily, what? You've been crying. What's the matter?
Oh, she just had an awful scare, Mr. Morgan. She almost got ran over by the hardware store wagon. People say that Tom Huggins drives like a crazy man.
Oh, well. Here, Emily, have a glass of water. You look all shook up. You know, you've got to look both ways before crossing Main Street these days. It's getting worse every year. Well, what do you have?
I'll have a strawberry phosphate. Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Oh, no, Emily. Have an ice cream soda with me. 2 strawberry ice cream sodas, Mr. Morgan.
2 strawberry ice cream sodas. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, there are 125 horses in Grover's Corners as I'm speaking to you. State inspectors were in here yesterday, and now they're going to bring in those automobiles. Why, I tell you, it's best just to stay off the streets these days. Why, I tell you, you know, I can remember when a dog could stay and lay in the middle of Main Street all day and nothing would come along to disturb him. There you are. Enjoy them. Yes, Mrs. Ellis, what can I do for you?
Wow, they're so expensive.
Oh, no, don't worry about that, Emily. We're celebrating your election, and do you want to know what else I'm celebrating?
Sure.
I'm celebrating because I've got a friend who will tell me the things that ought to be told me.
George, please don't think of that. I don't know what made me say it.
No, Emily, you stick to it. I'm glad you spoke to me about what you did, and you'll see. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna change so quick. Emily, can you do me a favor?
Certainly.
If I go to State Agriculture College next year, will you write me a letter every once in a while?
I certainly will, George. I certainly will. I feel as though being away for 3 years, you get out of touch with things. I feel as though letters from Grover's Corners wouldn't be so interesting after a while, especially in comparison to all of New Hampshire. I think it's a lovely town, though.
The day wouldn't come when I wouldn't want to know what was happening here. I know that's true, Emily.
Well, I'll try and keep my letters interesting.
You know, whenever I meet a farmer, I always ask him if he thinks it's important to go to agriculture school in order to be a good farmer.
Why, George?
And some say that it's even a waste of time. I mean, you can get all that stuff anyways from the pamphlet the government hands out, and Uncle Luke is getting old. He's about ready for me to start taking over tomorrow if I could.
Wow.
And, like you said, going out to other places and meeting other people. If something like that were to happen, I don't want it to go away, but I guess new people aren't any better than the old ones. I'll bet they almost never are. And Emily, you're as good as a friend as I've got, and I don't need to meet any of the other people in the other towns.
Oh, but George, don't you think it's important that you go to school and learn all about the soils and the cattle judging? Of course, I don't know.
I'm gonna make up my mind right now. I'm not going. I'll tell Paul about it tomorrow.
I don't see why you have to make a decision right now. It's a whole year away.
Emily, I'm glad that you told me what you did. Especially about that fault in my character. And what you said was right, but there was something about it that wasn't. And that was when you told me, that was when you said that I wasn't really paying attention to other people, and you, for instance. I mean, you said you were watching me and everything I did. Well, I was doing the same for you. Of course, you were one of the few people I always thought about. I always made sure you were on the bleachers, and I always made sure who you were with. And for the past 3 days, I've been trying to find the time to walk home with you, but something's always gotten in the way. Yesterday, I almost asked you, but then you walked home with Miss Corcoran instead.
George, life's awful funny. How could I have known that? Why, I thought you were...
Listen, Emily, I'm gonna tell you why I'm not going to agriculture school. It's because once you meet someone who you're very fond of, and who's fond of you too, someone who likes you enough to be interested in your character, I think that's just as important as going to college, and maybe even more so.
I think so too, George.
Emily, if I do improve, if I do change, would you be? Would you be?
I am now, George. I always have been.
Well, this has been an important conversation we've been having.
Yes, it has.
Wait just a minute, and then I'll walk you home. Mr. Morgan? I'll have to head home and come back with the money. I'll be back in a minute.
What's this? George Gibbs, do you mean to tell me that...
Yes, but I had my reasons. Here. I have my gold watch to keep until I come back with the money.
No, you keep it, George. I'll trust you.
I'll be back in 5 minutes.
I'll trust you 10 years, George. Not a day over. Did you get all over your shock, Emily?
Oh, yes, thank you.
I'm ready.
Well, let's get on with the wedding. There are a lot of things to be said about a wedding. There are a lot of thoughts that go on during a wedding. We can't cover them all in one wedding, naturally, especially not one in Grover's Corners where they're awful plain and short. Now, in this wedding, I play the minister, and that gives me the right to say a few more things about it. Now, the play's going to be getting serious for a little while now. You see, some churches say that marriage is a sacrament. Now, I don't quite know what that means, but I can guess. And like Miss Gibbs said a few minutes ago, people were meant to go through life 2 by 2. Now, this is a good wedding, but people are so put together that even at a good wedding, there are questions way down deep in people's minds. And we thought that that ought to be a part of our play too. Now, the real hero of this scene isn't on the stage at all. And we all know who that is. It's like what one of those European fellas said. Every child born into the world is nature's gift at making a perfect human being. Well, we've all seen nature pushing and contriving for some time now. Now, we all know that nature is interested in quantity. But I believe that she's interested in quality too. And that's why I'm in the ministry. And let's not forget about all the other witnesses to this wedding. The ancestors. Millions of them. Most of them set out to live life 2 by 2 as well. Millions of them. Well, that's all my sermon. It wasn't very long anyway.
I don't know why I'm crying. I suppose there's no reason to cry. It all started this morning when Emily was eating her breakfast, like she has for the last 17 years. She's going to be eating it at someone else's house. I suppose that's it. And then Emily, she said, "I can't eat another mouthful," and she laid her head down on the table and she cried. No, I'm gonna say it. I think it's downright cruel the way we send these girls out into marriage this way. I hope her friends have told her a thing or two. I couldn't bear to say anything myself. I know it's cruel. I went into it blind as a bat myself. The whole world's wrong. That's what it is. Oh, here they come.
Hey, look at them, fellas. You look scared to death. Ah, come here. You know what you're doing. Don't let their team down.
Hey, all right, all right. That'll be enough of that. That'll do. There used to be a lot of that sort of thing in the old days. Rome and after. We're more civilized now. So they say.
George, what's the matter?
I don't want to grow old. Why is everybody pushing me so?
George, you wanted this.
No, Ma, listen.
George, you're a man now.
No, Ma, listen to me. All I've ever wanted to be is to be a fella.
George, if anybody could hear you, I'm ashamed of you.
Where's Emily?
Oh, George, you gave me such a start.
Oh, Ma, I'm getting married.
Let me get my friend.
Now, Mom, you say Thursday nights. Me and Emily will be coming over every Thursday nights. Oh, Ma, why are you crying? Come on, we have to get ready for this.
I've never felt so alone in my entire life. George over there looking so, I hate him. I wish I were dead.
Emily, don't get so upset.
Papa, I don't want to get married.
Emily, it'll be all right.
Oh, but Papa, why can't I just stay here as I am? Let's go away.
Emily, just think about it for a minute.
Oh, but Papa, don't you remember what you used to say? All the time you used to say to me, all the time that I was your girl. There's gotta be a bunch of places we can go to. I'll work for you. I can keep house.
Emily, don't think about things like that right now. You're just nervous. It'll be all right. George. You're marrying the greatest guy in the world. George is a fine fella.
But Papa.
George, I'm about to give away my girl. Are you sure you can take care of her?
Mr. Webb, I'll try. Emily, I need you. I love you.
If you love me, just help me. All I want is for someone to love me.
I will, Emily. I will.
I mean forever, okay? Forever and ever.
Okay, come on now. They're waiting for us. Everything will be just fine. Be fine, Emily.
Take this woman to be your wedded wife?
Perfectly lovely wedding. Loveliest wedding I ever saw. Oh, I do love a good wedding, don't you? Doesn't she make a lovely bride?
I do.
And do you, Emily, take this man, George, to be your wedded husband?
Don't know when I've seen such a lovely wedding. I always cry. I don't know why it is, but I always cry. I just like to see young people happy, don't you? Oh, I think it's lovely.
I do.
The ring. I've married over 200 couples in my day. Do I believe in it? I don't know. M marries N, millions of them. The Sunday rides, the go-kart, the rides in the Ford, the first rheumatism, the grandchildren, the second rheumatism, the deathbed, the reading of the will, Once in 1,000 times it's interesting. Well, let's have Mendelssohn's Wedding March.
Aren't they a lovely couple? I've never been to such a nice wedding. I'm sure they'll be happy. I always say happiness, that's the great thing. The important thing is to be happy.
Well, that's all the second act, folks. 10 minutes break.
No regrets. Well, I knew you took care of the kids' needs and things. So nice to see
This time, 9 years have passed, friends. Summer 1914. Gradual changes in Grover's Corners. Horses are getting rarer. Farmers are coming to town in Fords. Folks are locking their doors at night. There haven't been any burglars in town, but everybody's heard about them. You'd be surprised, though. On the whole, not much changes around here. Now this is certainly in part of Grover's Corners. It's on a hilltop, a windy hilltop. Lots of sky, lots of clouds, often lots of sun and moon and stars. You come up here on a fine day and you can see range upon range of hills. Awful blue they are. Up there near Lake Sunapee and Lake Winnipesaukee. And there, way up there, if you've got a glass, you can see the White Mountains and Mount Washington. Up where Conway is, and then North Conway. And of course our favorite mountain here, Mount Monadnock, and all the towns that lie around her, Jaffrey and East Jaffrey and Petersboro and Dublin. And there, quite a ways down, is Grover's Corners. Yes, it's a beautiful spot up here. Lots of mountain laurels and lilacs. I often wonder why people would want to be buried in Woodlawn or Brooklyn when they might spend the same time up here in New Hampshire. Now, way back here are the Old Stones. 1670, 1680. Strong-minded people that came a long way to be independent. Now, summertime, people walk around here laughing at the funny words on the tombstones. It doesn't do any harm. And genealogists come up from Boston, get paid by city people to look up their ancestors. They want to know that they're daughters of the American Revolution and of the Mayflower. Well, I guess that doesn't do any harm either. Wherever you come into contact with the human race, there's layers and layers of nonsense. Now over here are some Civil War veterans. Iron flags on their graves. New Hampshire boys. They had a notion that the Union ought to be kept together, though they had never seen more than 50 miles of it themselves. All they knew was the name, friends. The United States of America. The United States of America. And they went and died about it. Now over here is the new section of our cemetery. And, oh, Well, there's your friend, Mrs. Gibbs. And let me see. There's Mr. Stimpson, the organist of the Congregational Church. Oh, and Mrs. Soames, who enjoyed the wedding so. You remember. Oh, and there are plenty of others. Let's see. There's Mr. Webb's boy Wallace, whose appendix burst while he was on a Boy Scout trip to Crawford's Notch. Yes, an awful lot of sorrow has sort of quieted down up here. People just wild with grief have brought their relatives up this mountain. We all know how it is. And then time, sunny days, and rainy days, and snow. We're all glad they're in a beautiful place, and we'll be coming up here ourselves once our stint's over. Now there are some things that we all know, but we don't like to take them out very often and look at them. Now we all know that something is eternal. And it isn't houses, and it isn't names, and it isn't earth, and it isn't even the stars. We all know deep in our bones that something is eternal, and that something has to do with human beings. All the greatest people that ever lived have been trying to tell us that for 5,000 years. Yet you'd be surprised how we're all losing hold of it. There's something deep down that's eternal about every human being. Now we all know that the dead don't stay interested in us living for very long. Gradually, they lose their hold on the earth, and the ambitions that they had, and the pleasures that they had, and the things that they suffered, and the people that they loved. They get weaned away from the earth. That's the way I put it. Weaned away. And they stay here while the earthly part of them burns away, burns out. And in all that time, they slowly become indifferent to what's going on in Grover's Corners. They're waiting. They're waiting for something that they know is coming. Something important and great. Aren't they waiting for the eternal part in them to come out clear? Now, some things that they're going to say may hurt your feelings, but that's the way it is. Mother and daughter, husband and wife, enemy and enemy, money and misers. All those terribly important things grow kind of pale around here. And what's left when memory's gone? And your identity, Mrs. Smith? Well, here are some living people. There's Joe Stoddard, our undertaker, supervising a newly made grave. And here's a Grover's Corners native who left town to go out west.
Good afternoon, Joe Stoddard.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Let me see, do I know you?
I'm Samantha Craig.
Gracious sakes alive, all the people. Should have known you'd be back for the funeral, Samantha. You've been away a long time.
Yes, I've been gone for over 12 years. I'm in business out in Buffalo now, but I was back in the East when I got news of my cousin's death, so I moved some things around a little so that I could come back and see the old home. You look well.
Yes, can't complain. Very sad, our journey today.
Yes.
I always say I hate to supervise when the young one is taken. They should be here in a few minutes. I had to come early. My son's supervising up at the home.
This is old Farmer McCarty. I used to milk cows for him before school. He had the lumbago.
Yes, we brought Farmer McCarty here a number of years ago.
Why, this is my Aunt Julia. I'd forgotten that Of course.
Yes, Doc Gibbs lost his wife 3 years ago, about this time. And today, another pretty sad blow for him too.
That's my sister Carrie's daughter, Samantha. Samantha Craig.
I'm always uncomfortable when they're around.
Simon.
Do they choose their own verses much, Joe?
No, mostly it's brief or pick a verse.
It doesn't sound like Aunt Julia. There aren't many of those Hersey sisters left now, you know.
Let's see, I was hoping to find my mother and father.
Over there with the Craigs, Avenue F.
He was the organist at the church, wasn't he? He drank a lot, we used to say.
Nobody was supposed to know. He'd seen a peck of trouble. Took his own life, you know.
Did he?
Hung himself in the attic. They tried to keep it quiet, but of course, it got around. He wrote his own epitaph. You can see it there.
Why, it's just some notes of music. What is it?
Oh, I wouldn't know. It was wrote up in the Boston papers at the time.
Joe, what did she die of?
Who?
My cousin.
Well, didn't you know? Had some trouble bringing a baby into the world. Was her second. She has a little boy about 4 years old.
The grave will be over here?
Yes, there isn't much more room here amongst the Gibbses, so we're opening up a whole new Gibbs section over there. I see they're coming. Excuse me?
Who is it, Julia?
My daughter-in-law, Emily Webb.
Well, I declare, the road up here must have been awful muddy. What did she die of, Julia?
In childbirth.
Childbirth. I'd almost forgotten about that. My, wasn't life awful? And wonderful?
Wonderful. Was it?
Simon, now remember.
I remember Emily's wedding. Wasn't it a lovely wedding? And I remember her reciting the class poem at graduation exercises. Emily was one of the brightest girls ever graduated high school. And her principal Wilkins says so time after time. I called on them at their new farm just before I died. Perfectly beautiful farm.
Yep, right smart farm. This is the road we used to live on.
I always liked that hymn. I was hoping they'd do a hymn.
Hello.
Hello, Emily.
Hello,
Hello, Mother.
Emily.
It's raining.
Yes, they'll be gone soon. Just rest yourselves.
I feel I knew them last at the housing estate. Papa remembered my favorite hymn. I don't really like being new here. Wish I'd been here a longer time. How do you do, Mr. Stimson?
How do you do, Emily?
Oh, Mother Gibbs, George and I have turned that farm into just about the best place you ever saw. We thought about you all the time. We wanted to show you the new barn and this great long cement drinking fountain we bought for the stock out of the money you left us.
I did?
Yes, Mother Gibbs, don't you remember? Why, it was just over $350.
Oh, yes, Emily.
Well, there's a patent device on the drinking fountain, so it never overflows, and it never goes above a certain mark they have there. It's just fine. It really won't be the same to George without me, but it's a lovely farm. Mother Gibbs, live people don't understand, do they?
No, dear, not very much.
They're all just shut up in little boxes. I feel as though I knew them last 1,000 years ago. My boy is spending the day at Mrs. Warren's house today. Oh, Mr. Warren, my boy is spending the day at your house.
Is he?
Oh, yes, he just loves it there. Oh, Mother Gibbs, we have a Ford too, and it never gives us any trouble. I don't drive though. Mother Gibbs, when does this feeling go away? Of being one of them? How long does it...
Yeah, just be patient.
I know. They're finished. They're going. Father Gibbs is bringing you some of my flowers. He looks just like George, doesn't he? Oh, Mother Gibbs, I never realized before how troubled and in the dark light persons were. Oh, look at him. I loved him so. From morning till night, that's all they are. They're just troubled.
A little cooler than it was. Yes, that rain's cooled it off a little. Those northeast winds always do the same thing, don't they? If it isn't a rain, it's a 3-day blow.
Mother Gibbs, one can go back there. One can go back into the living. I feel it. I know it. Like, just then I was thinking about the farm, and for a minute, I was there. And my baby was on my lap as plain as day.
Yes, of course you can.
I can go back and live all those days over again? Oh, why not?
All I can say is, Emily, don't.
But it's true, isn't it? I can go back and live.
Many have tried, but they soon come back here.
Don't do it, Emily.
Emily, don't. It isn't what you think it'd be.
But I won't live over a sad day. I'll choose a happy one. I'll choose the first day I knew I loved George. Why should that be painful?
You not only live it, but you watch yourself living it.
Yes.
And as you watch, you see the thing that they, down there, never know. You see the future. You know what will happen afterward.
But is that painful? Why?
That's not the only reason why you shouldn't do it, Emily. When you've been here longer, you'll see that our life here is to forget all that and to think only of what's ahead and to be ready for what's ahead. When you've been here longer, you'll understand.
Mother Gibbs, how can I ever forget that life? It's all I know, and it's all I had.
Emily, it isn't wise. Really, it isn't.
But it's something I must know for myself. I'll choose a happy day anyways.
No. Please choose an unimportant day. Choose the least important day of your life. It will be important enough.
So, it can't be since I was married. Or since the baby was born. I can choose a birthday, can't I? I choose my 12th birthday.
All right. February 18th, 1899. A Tuesday. Would you like any special time of the day?
Oh, I want the whole day.
All right. We'll begin at dawn. It had been snowing for several days, but it had ceased the night before, and they'd begun clearing the roads. The sun's coming up.
Oh, there's Main Street. Oh, and there's Mr. Morgan's drugstore before he changed it. Oh, and there's the livery stable.
Yes, it's 1899. This is 14 years ago.
Oh, that's the town I knew as a little girl. Oh, and here's the white fence that surrounded our house. I'd forgotten that. Oh, I just love it. Are they inside?
Yes, your mother will be down to make breakfast any moment.
Will she?
And you remember your father had been away for several days, but he had come back on the early morning train.
No.
He'd gone back to his college to make a speech in Western New York, at Clinton.
Oh, and there's Howie Newsome. Oh, and there's our policeman, but he's dead. He died.
Get here, Bessie. Morning, Bill.
Morning, Howie.
You're up early.
Oh, I've been rescuing a party down near froze to death down in Polish town there. Got drunk and then lay down in a snowdrift. Thought he was in bed when I took him.
Oh, and there's Joe Crowell.
Morning, Mr. Warren. Morning, Howie.
Children! Emily! Wally, wake up! It's 7 o'clock!
Oh, Mama! Oh, how young she looks. I didn't know she was ever that young.
You can come and dress by the fire, but you've got to hurry. Oh, good morning, Mr. Newsom. It's cold.
Yes, Miss Woods, 10 below up in my barn.
Oh, think of it. Well, better keep yourself covered up.
Will do.
Mama! I can't find my blue hair ribbon anywhere.
Oh, just open your eyes, that's all. I laid it out special for you on the dresser. If it was a snake, it would have bit you.
Yes, yes.
Morning, Bill.
Morning, Mr. Webb. You're up early.
Oh, I've been back to my college in New York State. Had any trouble here?
Oh, not much. Just rescued a guy who down there froze to death.
Well, we'll have to get that in the paper.
No, it wasn't much.
Well, good day, Bill.
Papa.
Hello, Mother.
Oh, Charles. Oh, I was worried. How was it?
Oh, it was good. I told him a few things. Everything all right here?
Well, nothing special happened. It's been right cold around. Mr. Newsom said it was 10 below down at the barn.
Well, it's colder than that up at Hamilton College. The students' ears are falling off. It's so cold. It just ain't Christian. Any mistakes in the paper?
None that I noticed. The coffee's ready when you want it. Hey, oh, Charles. Don't forget it's Emily's birthday. Did you remember to get her something?
I've got something right here. Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
Charles, don't interrupt her. She's slow enough as it is. Oh, hurry up. You're going to be late.
Oh, Mama, Papa, I'm here. Why? They're so young and beautiful. Why did they ever have to get old? I love you all, everything. I can't look at everything hard enough. Can I go in?
Yes.
Good morning, Mama.
Oh, good morning, dear. Happy birthday and many happy returns. I laid some presents for you on the table. Birthday or no birthday, don't forget to eat your breakfast. I want my girl to grow up good and strong.
Mama, you shouldn't have.
That blue one on the table is from your Aunt Nora, and that postcard album, I bet you can guess who that's from. I found it on the porch this morning. Charles, George Gibbs. He brought it over in the cold. It was right nice of him.
Oh, George. I'd forgotten that.
Eat your bacon good and slow. It'll keep you warm on a cold morning.
Oh, Mama, just look at me as though you really saw me. Mama, 14 years have gone by and I'm dead. You're a grandmother, Mama. And I married George Gibbs. Wally's dead too. His appendix burst on a camping trip to North Conway. We felt just terrible about it. Don't you remember? But for a moment now, we're happy and we're together. So let's just look at one another.
That yellow one on the table I found looking through your grandmother's things. You're old enough to wear it now. I hope you like it.
Oh, and this is from you. Oh, Mama, it's beautiful. It's just what I wanted.
I'm glad you like it. I searched all over for it. Your Aunt Nora couldn't find one in Concord, so I had to send all the way to Boston for it. And Wally, he made something for you too in manual training class. He's mighty proud of it. Make a big fuss over it, will you? Your father has something for you too. I don't know what it is. Oh, here he comes.
Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
Oh, I can't go on. It all goes so fast and we don't have time to look at one another. never realized all that was going on, and we never noticed. Just take me back up the hill to my grave. But first, wait, just one more look. Goodbye. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grover's Corners. Goodbye, Mama and Papa. Oh, goodbye to clocks ticking and Mama's sunflowers and food and coffee and sleeping and waking up. Oh, Earth, you're just too wonderful for anyone to realize you. Do any human beings ever realize life while they live it? Every minute?
No. The saints and the poets, maybe. They do some.
I'm ready to go back.
Were you happy?
No, Mother Gibbs, you were right. That's all blind people are. They're just blind.
Emily's starting to clear up. The stars are coming out.
Oh, Mr. Stimson, I should have listened to them.
Yeah. Well, now you know. Now you know. That's what it was to be alive. To move about in a cloud of ignorance. To go up and down, trampling on the feelings of those and those about you. To spend or waste time as though you had 1,000,000 years. To be forever at the mercy of that one self-centered passion or another. Well, now you know. That's the happy existence you wanted to go back to. Ignorance and blindness.
Simon Stimson, that ain't the whole truth and you know it. Look at that star, Emily. I forgot its name.
My boy Joel was a sailor. He knew them all. He'd sit on his stoop of a night and tell you the name of every last one of them. Yes, sir. Wonderful.
Star's mighty good company.
Here comes another one again.
Well, that's funny. Tain't no time for one of them to be here. Goodness sakes.
Oh, Mother Gibbs, it's George.
Dear, just rest yourself.
It's George.
My boy Joel, who knew the stars, used to say it took millions of years for that speck of light to get down here to Earth. Seems like nobody could believe it. But that's what he used to say. Millions of years.
Goodness, that ain't no way to behave.
He ought to be home.
Mother Gibbs.
Yes, Emily.
They don't understand, do they?
No, dear. They don't understand.
Almost everyone's asleep in Grover's Corners. There are a few lights on in town. Over at the train depot where Shorty Hawkins just watched the train to Albany go by. And over at the livery stable where someone's staying up late and talking. Yes, the sky is clearing up. There are the stars doing their old crisscross journeys in the sky. You know, scholars haven't settled the matter yet, but they seem to think that there's no intelligent life out there. Just chalk or fire. Only this one, straining away every day to make something of itself. The strain is so bad that every 16 hours, everybody has to lie down and get a rest. Well, 11 o'clock in Grover's Corners. You all go and get a good rest too. Good night.